where do I need to be in season? Right before season starts, I need to be doing, thinking conditioning wise, as much, shuttle run sprints as I can that mimics the needs of my sport. As I'm further away from it, I need to do things that build capacity to get my body ready for it. So when I'm thinking in that off season, that's when now my job is to really build that cardiovascular endurance. Now my job is to do more steady state stuff for a little bit longer duration compared to doing repeated sprint ability, because you have to build the body's capacity to handle such workloads. I see a lot of errors when it comes to training this way is that a lot of times in preseason, I see coaches like, let's run 3 miles. And I'm like, that should have been done months ago. You should already have your 3 miles. You should have the capacity to do it. We should now be running, what's the distance of the soccer field? What's the duration of your actual plays? How many times do we have to do that over the course of an hour? Those should be your sprints that you're running, because soccer is just a game of sprints. So we shouldn't be running steady state in our preseason. Steady state stuff should be in that off season, getting your body ready. And it doesn't just have to be running. That could be doing things like rowing, airdyne, bike stuff, even swimming. Again, this is like the time that your body probably needs a little break from the same movements over and over again. And pick something that you're really interested in doing that you really like. Some people, you may love running. That's great. Now is your time to get those miles in. You may hate running. Let's find a condition in a different way. This is when I'd say, okay, you really love your Peloton, you're in your off season, go do that 2 to 3 days a week. You go do an hour class. Get that cardiovascular ability up, knowing that we're not going to do that as we get closer to your preseason period. When it comes to your actual training, this is when sets and reps, again, always considering the need of the athlete. Is she new to this movement? I don't want her doing reps of 12. We need to be learning the movement pattern, but let's assume the athlete is aware of how to do these movements with very good form. This is when we're going to probably be more in that GPP to hypertrophy phase. So GPP, we're going to consider that as more like muscular endurance. So that's when we're going to be in reps of like 10 to 15. Probably don't need to go more than 15 reps, because then it just becomes a lot of extra wear and tear, knowing that these athletes are never not doing their sport. You really don't need to hit those high reps, but volume should stay around 60 to 70%. With females, you can always hit a little bit higher, just because we have been shown to be able to do more volume at a higher intensity, just in terms of how our muscles are. We have a lot more type 1 endurance type of muscles than fast twitch. So this is when you're going to, again, keep your reps between 10 to 15-ish, keep your sets between 2 to 4, depending, again, on how many days a week you're training. And that's going to be that GPP leading into a more hypertrophy phase, where, let's say, for 4 weeks, you're going to be really focusing on sets between 6 to 8. You're going to try to build, reps between 6 to 8, build your sets up. So we're going to do sets between like 3 to 5, really trying to get a very dense training volume, so your body is able to build muscle, have hypertrophy, not just in your muscle, but also your tendons and your ligaments. You may add a lot of extra pauses and things that you're doing just to get more time under tension. And when we consider your conditioning at this period, this is when you're in that hypertrophy state in your strength, you're probably now going to start to transition to doing probably some type of sprint training during this period. It won't be every day, and your sprints will probably be longer versus like short, like 30 meters. So you might be doing like 100, you might have a 300 sprints in there. And that's the perfect time for it in that hypertrophy volume phase.
That's a really great breakdown. And I do want to ask, what would you recommend would be the minimum length of an off-season program? Is 1 month enough? Is it 6 weeks, 8 weeks? What is the best so players can gradually build up in a healthy way?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a good question, because this really depends on the individual. What's your prior training experience? What else is she doing? Because I don't want to say you need to be doing this for 2 months, but then you're also doing 15 hours of soccer at the same time, where it's like, that's just a little bit too much for your body to be able to handle. Are you new? Your body can handle more volume because you're young and you have a great recoverability versus are you someone that's like in your college years and you might have a lot of additional stressors, but minimum should be 4 weeks. Ideally 6 to 8 would be great. But minimum will be 4.